There comes a moment in every life when we must stop, breathe, and confront the reality that time is not an unlimited resource. The ancient writer declared, "To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die." And whether we acknowledge it or not, your life is moving between these two appointments, one you have already met and one you will certainly meet. But let me take you deeper than the words you've heard 1,000 times. You were not merely born, you were sent. Heaven released you into this world with intention. Your birth was not the result of circumstance, but the outcome of divine scheduling. You arrived when you were supposed to arrive, with the gifts you needed and with the purpose designed exclusively for you. And right now, in this moment, you stand in the tension between those two appointments. Somewhere between birth and death lies your assignment. The question is not how long will you live. The question is how well will you live with the time you have left. Because the truth is this: many people are breathing, yet not truly living. They exist, but they do not advance. They survive, but they do not grow. They wake up, but they do not rise. And that is why this message matters. Because if you misunderstand your season, you will mishandle your purpose. If you misjudge your time, you will mismanage your destiny. There is a time to be born, but that time has already passed. The question now is, what are you doing with the life that was given to you? There is a time to die, but that time has not yet come, which means you still have room to grow, room to change, room to step forward, room to break free, room to rise. But hear this closely: the danger is not death. The danger is wasting the time between birth and death. The danger is ignoring the season you're in. The danger is staying stuck when God is calling you to move. The danger is thinking tomorrow is promised when all you truly have is today. And some of you listening right now are standing in a season of beginnings. New doors are opening, new opportunities are forming, new strength is rising. But beginnings demand courage. They require obedience. They require faith. They require a willingness to step into the unknown. Others of you are standing in a season of endings. Something is closing, something is shifting, something is leaving your life. But hear me, endings are not failures. Endings are preparations. When God ends a season, He is not taking something from you. He is making room for something better. There is a time to be born and a time to die, but between those two fixed appointments lies your greatest responsibility: living with purpose, not casually, not fearfully, not passively, but boldly, intentionally, urgently. If you will embrace your season, if you will stop running from purpose, if you will wake up the gifts inside of you, then your life will not be measured by the breath in your lungs, but by the impact you leave behind. And that is why you must hear this whole message, because your time is too precious, your calling too great, and your destiny too important to waste even one more moment. You were born on purpose, not by accident, not by coincidence, not by the random movement of human decisions. And I want you to hear me closely, because this truth carries weight. You were sent. Before anyone ever held you, before anyone ever named you, before anyone ever celebrated you or questioned you, heaven spoke you into existence. There was a divine intention behind your arrival. Nothing about your birth was accidental. Your first breath was synchronized with God's timing, not human timing. And if you ever begin to doubt your value, you must return to this truth. You were born because God desired you here. And perhaps somewhere along the way, life has tried to convince you otherwise. Maybe you've heard voices that told you your life had no meaning. Maybe you've walked through seasons that made you feel unnecessary, unseen, overlooked, or unimportant. But I need you to understand, those voices were not telling you the truth. Your existence is evidence that God had something specific in mind, something that required you, something that required your personality, your voice, your gifts, your potential. No one else could fill your place. No one else could carry what you were designed to carry. You were born on purpose, but purpose does not automatically unfold. It must be discovered. It must be awakened. It must be embraced. And the greatest tragedy is not a life that ends too soon. It's a life that never recognizes why it began. Far too many people wander through the years thinking they are incidental, thinking they don't matter, thinking they are simply here to survive. But that is not why you were born. You were born with assignment. You were born with intentionality. You were born with a mission encoded into the very structure of your soul. And maybe today you're sitting there feeling the weight of confusion. You're wondering why you're here. You're questioning the point of it all. You're searching for direction in a world that seems to constantly press you from every side. Let me remind you of something powerful. When God ordained your birth, He also ordained your abilities. He placed inside you the strength you would need for the season you're in right now. Not one challenge you face is outside the capacity He created in you. There is something profoundly liberating about realizing that your birth was a deliberate act of divine intention. It means that you do not have to imitate anyone else. You do not have to compete with anyone else. You do not have to diminish yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You only have to become who you were designed to be. And deep down, you already feel that calling. It's that stirring in your spirit that refuses to be silenced. It's that whisper that tells you there must be more. It's that restlessness that keeps pushing you towards something greater than what you've known. The moment you embrace this truth, I was born on purpose, everything shifts, your decisions change, your standards rise, your mindset transforms. You stop living as though life is happening to you and start living like life is happening through you. You begin to recognize that your story matters, your voice matters, your presence matters. And once you understand that you were intentionally placed on this earth, you stop settling for anything less than what God intended for your life. Your life is not a random collection of moments loosely stitched together. Your life is shaped in seasons, each one designed with purpose, order, and divine strategy. And if you can grasp this truth, truly grasp it, everything about the way you see your journey will begin to shift. Because when you understand that life unfolds in seasons, you stop panicking over moments that feel overwhelming, and you start recognizing them as part of a much larger story God is writing through you. Listen carefully. Nothing you are walking through is chaos to God. You may feel confused, but heaven is not confused. You may be shaken, but heaven is steady. You may feel like everything is out of your control, but none of it is out of God's control. Every season of your life, your joys, your struggles, your victories, your losses, has been woven into a perfect timeline crafted with purpose. And if you misread the season you are in, you may misunderstand what God is trying to develop inside you. Some of you are in a season of planting. You're sowing effort, faith, obedience, sacrifice, and it feels like no one sees it. But God sees it. And you need to know that planting seasons often feel lonely, hidden, unnoticed. Yet they are the most critical seasons, because what is planted now determines what will rise later. Don't curse the soil you're working through. It's preparing your harvest. Some of you are in a season of waiting, and waiting can feel suffocating. It can make you believe nothing is happening. But in God's world, waiting is never wasted time. Waiting is development. Waiting is strengthening. Waiting is God teaching you to trust even when He is silent. And if He has positioned you in a waiting season, it is because He is preparing something worth waiting for. Some are in a season of pruning. Something is being cut away, a relationship, a habit, a role, a comfort zone. And pruning hurts. It feels like loss. It feels like rejection. It feels unfair. But pruning is not punishment. Pruning is preparation. God only cuts what is holding you back from bearing more fruit. If He removed it, it's because it could no longer go with you into the next season of your life. And there are some of you in a season of breakthrough. Things are shifting. Opportunities are opening. Doors you prayed for are finally swinging wide. But breakthrough also requires responsibility. When God elevates you, He expects you to step into that new place with humility, gratitude, and obedience. Breakthrough is not the time to become passive. It's the time to maximize every blessing He places before you. Life does not remain the same. Seasons change. And if you cling to one season too tightly, You may miss the beauty God is trying to unfold in the next. There is a rhythm to your life, a divine timing that guides you, protects you, and positions you exactly where you need to be. And let me tell you something deeply important: no season lasts forever. The pain will not last forever. The confusion will not last forever. The struggle will not last forever. Every season has an assignment. Every season has an opening and a closing. And when you trust the one who holds the seasons, you can walk through every chapter of your life with confidence, courage, and unshakable peace. Oh, because when you trust the one who holds the seasons, you begin to recognize a powerful truth rising beneath every moment of your life. Every beginning signals God's activity. And that's where I want to take you now, because some of you are standing at the edge of a new beginning, but you're hesitant, unsure, even afraid. You're stepping into something unfamiliar, something you didn't expect, something you may not feel ready for. But hear me, the moment a new beginning appears, it is not a coincidence. It is a sign. It is evidence that heaven has started moving on your behalf. New beginnings rarely announce themselves with comfort. They often arrive quietly, wrapped in uncertainty. They show up disguised as interruptions, as changes, as opportunities you didn't plan for. But beneath every new beginning, there is divine movement. Something is shifting. Something is stirring. Something is opening, because God has decided it is your time to step forward. And let me connect this to the season you just walked out of. The only reason you had to endure certain struggles, certain delays, certain pruning moments is because beginnings require preparation. God cannot pour new blessings into an unprepared heart. He cannot release new assignments into an unready spirit. So what felt like waiting was actually strengthening. What felt like loss was actually clearing the path. What felt like silence was actually God working behind the scenes to position you for what is coming next. Every beginning is intentional. Think about creation itself. God never starts anything casually. When he begins with purpose, with clarity, with direction. And the same God who spoke light into darkness is the God who speaks new beginnings into your life. Some of you can feel that stirring right now. You may not be able to explain it, but there is a pull inside you, a sense that something new is emerging. It might be a new chapter in your career, a new relationship, a new mindset, a new habit, a new purpose rising from within, and you're wondering why this desire is growing stronger. It's because beginnings don't start on the outside, they begin in your spirit. God plants the seed internally before he reveals the fruit externally. But understand this, with every beginning comes a battle. The enemy always attacks what God is initiating. Fear tries to stop you. Doubt tries to silence you. Your past tries to pull you back. But beginnings are sacred, and they carry divine energy. When God begins something in you, it comes with grace, strength, and authority beyond your own ability. That's why you can't shrink back now. You can't talk yourself out of what God is trying to lead you into. You can't let the insecurities of a past season rob you of the opportunity of a new one. Beginnings require boldness. They require faith. They require you to step even when you cannot see the whole path ahead. And if there's one thing I want you to understand, it's this: when God begins something in your life, he never leaves it unfinished. What he starts, he sustains. What he initiates, he empowers. What he calls you into, he equips you to fulfill. What he initiates, he empowers. What he calls you into, he equips you to fulfill. And that understanding prepares your heart for the next truth you must embrace. Every ending carries a hidden blessing, even when it doesn't feel like it. Because just as beginnings reveal God's activity, endings reveal God's wisdom. And if beginnings excite us, endings often shake us. They unsettle us. They bring questions, discomfort, and sometimes even pain. Yet endings are not signs of God withdrawing. Endings are signs of God redirecting. When something comes to a close, it is not because God has abandoned you. It is because he is protecting you, advancing you, or positioning you for what your eyes cannot yet see. You see, the same God who opens doors will also close them. The same God who gives opportunities will also remove the ones you've outgrown. The same God who leads you into a season will lead you out of that season. And if you do not understand the divine purpose behind endings, you will mistake blessings for losses and protection for rejection. Some of the hardest moments in your life weren't punishments, they were promotions in disguise. God ended relationships that would have drained your future. He shut down paths that would have broken you. He allowed certain dreams to collapse because they were too small for the calling He placed on your life. And you didn't see it then, but looking back, you know that if those things had not ended, you would not be where you are today. Endings carry emotional weight because we tend to hold tightly to what is familiar. Even when something is no longer growing, even when it no longer brings life, even when it no longer aligns with God's purpose, we cling to it because it feels safe. But God loves you too much to let you remain in places that stunt your growth. And many of you listening right now are in a moment of transition. Something recently ended, maybe a job, maybe a relationship, maybe a season of comfort, maybe a version of yourself that you've outgrown. And you're tempted to see that ending as a setback. But hear me, endings are often the birthplace of transformation. They create space for what God wants to bring next. Sometimes God must empty your hands before He can fill them. Sometimes He must interrupt your plans so He can reveal His. Sometimes He must close one door completely so you stop trying to go back and start moving toward what's ahead. And let me connect this to your new beginning. You cannot fully step into a new beginning until you're willing to release an old ending. If you hold on to what God has already closed, you'll miss what God is opening. If you keep grieving what He has removed, you won't celebrate what He is preparing. The ending you're facing right now is not the death of purpose. It is the doorway to purpose. Every ending carries a hidden blessing, even if it's wrapped in discomfort. Because when God ends something, He is not taking life from you. He is making room for greater life to flow through you. Because when God ends something, He is not taking life from you. He is making room for greater life to flow through you. And that leads us into the next powerful truth you must grasp with both hands. The power of courageous living in limited time. If endings reveal anything, they reveal how short life truly is. They remind us that we do not have unlimited days, unlimited chances, unlimited opportunities. And when you understand that time is limited, you begin to realize that courage is not optional. It is essential. You cannot live passively. You cannot drift through your days believing you have forever to do what God has called you to do today. You cannot waste the precious time between your beginning and your ending. And that is why courage must rise within you. Courage to step out of comfort. Courage to release what God has closed. Courage to embrace what God is opening. Courage to confront what you've avoided. Courage to grow where you've resisted. Courage to speak when you've been silent. Courage to move when fear has kept you frozen. You see, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will not rule the life God entrusted to you. Every day you wake up, heaven hands you a gift called time, and what you do with that gift determines the trajectory of your destiny. Time rewards the bold and exposes the hesitant. Time elevates those who act and diminishes those who wait endlessly for perfect conditions. And you know this already, there will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a moment where everything is easy, everything is clear, everything is guaranteed. Courage is required because life moves forward whether you are ready or not. Let me tell you something deeply important. Your fears will always exaggerate your risk, but they will never reveal your potential. Fear shows you what might go wrong, but courage shows you what God can make right. Fear shrinks your world, but courage expands your future. Fear ties you to yesterday, but courage pulls you into tomorrow. And right now, some of you are standing at the threshold of something greater, something meaningful, something God has whispered into your spirit. And the only thing standing in your way is hesitation. But this is the season to step boldly. This is the season to act. This is the season to stop rehearsing your insecurities and start declaring your identity. You were not created to live small. You were not created to live hidden. You were not created to simply exist between birth and death. You were created to live courageously, knowing that every second is a sacred opportunity. Think about this. Your time is too valuable to waste on fear. Your calling is too significant to delay for convenience. Your purpose is too important to bury beneath doubt. Life moves in one direction, forward, and God expects you to move forward with it. Not timidly, not half-heartedly, but boldly, intentionally, courageously, because time does not wait for the fearful. Time accelerates toward those willing to rise. And if you want to honor the God who gave you life, then live with the fullness, the bravery, the passion, and the courage that your limited time demands. Well, because time does not wait for the fearful. Time accelerates toward those willing to rise. And once you understand that courage is required for the season you're in, your heart becomes ready to embrace another profound truth. Death is not final. Death is divine reassignment. Now stay with me, because I'm not only talking about the physical end of life. I'm talking about the death of seasons, the death of chapters, the death of versions of yourself that can no longer walk with you into the future God is shaping. We tend to fear death in all its forms, fear the ending of relationships, fear the closing of opportunities, fear the breaking down of old identities. But death in God's hands is never destruction. It is transformation. It is transition. It is the doorway from what was into what will be. When something dies in your life, when a chapter closes, when a dream fades, when a plan collapses, it does not signal the collapse of your destiny. It signals the completion of one assignment and the preparation for another. Death is God's way of saying, this season has fulfilled its purpose. It's time to move. And if life teaches us anything, it teaches us that nothing stays the same. What God allows to die, He uses to resurrect something greater. Think about a seed. When a seed is placed in the ground, it must die to what it was before it can become what it was designed to be. If it refused death, it would remain small forever. And many of you are holding seeds, gifts, talents, callings, dreams that cannot grow until you allow certain things in your life to die. You cannot cling to what no longer produces fruit. You cannot resurrect what God has laid to rest. You cannot carry what God has called you to release. Death is not the end. It is divine repositioning. Now let me speak to those who feel the pain of a recent ending. You didn't just lose something. You were moved. You weren't just emptied. You were prepared. Something inside you is shifting. And even though you may not fully understand it, you can feel the pull. Every significant transformation in your life requires a kind of death. You cannot step into a bigger life while holding on to a smaller version of yourself. And yes, one day the physical journey of life will reach its end. But even that is not a tragedy for those who walk with God. Death is not a wall, it is a doorway. It is not a collapse, it is a crossing. It is not darkness, it is homecoming. The same God who appointed your birth has appointed the moment your earthly assignment concludes, not as punishment, but as promotion into eternity. For the believer, death is not loss, it is fulfillment. But you must understand this now. While breath is still in your lungs, the reality of death is what gives urgency to life. You do not have forever to obey God. You do not have forever to heal, to forgive, to fulfill your calling, to love deeply, to step boldly. Knowing that death is certain should not make you fearful. It should make you purposeful. Because if every death is divine reassignment, then every moment you're alive is divine opportunity. And the question becomes, what will you do with the time you still have? And the question becomes, what will you do with the time you still have? Because once you face the reality that every breath is a gift and every moment is sacred, it forces you to confront something many people spend their whole lives avoiding, the truth that demands you examine your priorities. And this is where everything becomes personal, not theoretical, not distant, not abstract, personal. Because the moment you realize life is brief, seasons are shifting, and death is not an end but a transition, you can no longer live casually. You can no longer drift aimlessly. You can no longer waste time on what does not strengthen your soul. The truth of your limited time confronts you, challenges you, and calls you to reevaluate what truly matters. And that truth is this: you cannot afford to live your life out of order. Some of you have been giving your energy to things that don't feed your purpose. You've been investing your time in people who drain you instead of strengthen you. You've been pouring your heart into pursuits that leave you empty. You've been running after the urgent while ignoring the essential. And this moment, right now, is heaven's wake-up call. You must evaluate your priorities, because one day, sooner than you think, you will look back and realize you spent years fighting battles that were never yours, chasing approval from people who were never meant to validate you, storing treasures in places that will never last. Life has a way of reminding us, sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, that misplaced priorities lead to spiritual exhaustion and emotional collapse. But here is the power of this moment. Truth allows you to reset your life. Truth allows you to reorder your steps. Truth forces you to stop pretending everything is fine when your spirit knows it's not. Truth confronts you so that God can transform you. You see, the reason some of you feel restless is because you've been living according to someone else's expectations instead of God's purpose. The reason some of you feel drained is because you've been carrying responsibilities God never asked you to carry. The reason some of you feel stuck is because you've been prioritizing comfort over calling, and you cannot move into your next season while clinging to priorities that belong to the old one. Truth confronts you to free you. And let me tell you, when truth hits your spirit, it does something powerful. It forces you to examine where your time is going. It forces you to evaluate what you've allowed into your mind, your heart, your home. Truth demands that you look honestly at the habits that have shaped you, the distractions that have controlled you, the wounds you've refused to face. Because the clarity of truth always precedes the courage of change. And I want you to hear this deep in your soul. Your life will always move in the direction of your priorities. If your priorities are shaped by fear, your life will shrink. If they're shaped by pressure, your life will scatter. If they're shaped by culture, your life will drift. But if they are shaped by truth, God's truth, your life will align, your purpose will sharpen, and your path will clear. Truth is not always comfortable, but it is always liberating. And once truth confronts your heart, you cannot go back to living the same way, because now you see what matters. Now you feel what's eternal. Now you understand what is at stake. And now you recognize that every remaining moment of your life must be lived with focus, intention, and eternal clarity. Oh, and now you recognize that every remaining moment of your life must be lived with focus, intention, and eternal clarity. And when truth has realigned your priorities, when purpose has awakened your courage, when the seasons of your life start to make sense, something remarkable begins to rise within you. A deep, unshakable understanding that God is writing your story with purpose, timing, and perfect orchestration. Because if there is one reality that ties all of this together, your beginning, your seasons, your endings, your courage, your priorities, it is this: your entire life is held within the hands of a God who makes no mistakes, not in your birth, not in your timing, not in the chapters that opened or the chapters that closed. Not in the victories that lifted you or the losses that humbled you. Your story is divinely authored. And when you begin to truly see your life through that lens, everything changes. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what is God building in me? You stop seeing obstacles as punishments and start seeing them as preparation. You stop viewing delays as denials and start recognizing them as divine timing. Because the author of your story never writes a chapter without purpose. Some of you felt abandoned in certain seasons, but you were not abandoned, you were being developed. Some of you felt forgotten, but you were being positioned. Some of you thought God was silent, but he was speaking through circumstances you didn't yet understand. And now, standing where you are, you can look back and see that every thread was necessary, every moment intentional, every season connected to the next. Your story is not random. It is not fragmented. It is not broken beyond repair. It is a masterpiece in progress. And masterpieces are not created in a moment. They are built through process, through layers, through contrasts, through shadows and light that reveal the beauty of the final work. And what is extraordinary is this: every story God writes is redemptive. Even the painful chapters hold glory. Even the dark moments hold revelation. Even the broken pieces hold potential for transformation. Nothing is wasted. Not one tear, not one setback, not one disappointment, not one unanswered question. God weaves them all into a testimony that will carry power beyond anything you imagined. But here is the part that should ignite your spirit. God has not finished writing your story yet. If you can hear these words, if you still have breath, then your next chapter has not been written. Your greatest impact has not yet unfolded. Your deepest growth has not yet emerged. Your most powerful testimony has not yet been revealed. What God is preparing is greater than what you have seen. What he is shaping is bigger than what you have imagined. And the story you are living is moving toward purpose, not away from it. And when you understand that God himself holds the pen of your life, fear loses its grip, anxiety loosens its hold, regret loses its power, because your confidence no longer rests in your ability to figure everything out. It rests in God's ability to lead you through every chapter he has ordained. This is why you can walk forward with boldness. This is why you can face tomorrow with peace. This is why you can embrace every beginning, endure every ending, and rise with courage in every season, because the author of your life is faithful, intentional, and sovereign over every moment you will ever live.